My name is Lisa Mudoni. I'm a co-curator on the underdevelopment complex paradox project. What we're doing today is the table read. We're going to read each other's work and respond to it, but also we're interested in the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions that came up for you as you were going through the research material, writing the work, because we realize that this work is layered work, it's nuanced work, it's work about the realities we exist in every day. And so we'd like to sit here and share. Personally, when we were putting together the research packets, with everything happening in the world, the repatriation of Patrice Lumumba's gold tooth, the Maasai being evicted in Tanzania, sometimes it feels like the work you're doing is like a drop in the ocean. So I think today was just a practice of sitting in community with each other and holding these large realities that we can't hold individually. And with that, I'd like to just, of course, the ground rules, I would hope that we just hold each other in softness as we kind of peel back the layers on the myths around underdevelopment and our thoughts around it. We listen to each other actively when we're going through the read-through for the scripts, give kind feedback, and of course respecting the person who's speaking. When we get to the point of doing the readings, we'll have whoever's reading the script, and then you can give me if you'd like to respond, just let me know, and then we can create a queue so that not everyone is talking at the same time. So how we want to do this is brief introductions. We go into the readings and the responses, and then after that we have some questions, and we'd like to invite you into a co-creative process as we think around the launch of this audio archive and the name and essentially what we are trying to say. So at this point, I'd like to invite all of you to just hold this intention with me for this afternoon, that we find community together, that we ground together, and we stand at our center and claim it as that, and hope the rest of the world shifts in accordance. So I think we can go this way, or you can go this way, and you can just introduce yourself.
What your process has been like and how everything is sitting with you. And
then just say which episode.
Oh, okay. I'm doing episode 5. Community is all we have.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Ekumbo. I am the L in the Lamb Sisterhood, and the Lamb Sisterhood is doing episode 4. I'm excited to be around all of you and to hear.
Hi everyone, my name is Mombi Kanyogo. I'm a co-curator on the project. I'm excited to hear everything put together. I think we've been reading all the work separately, so it'll be interesting to think together about what it looks like as a holistic project.
Hi everyone, I'm Abu Majid. I am the sound designer for the episodes.
I'm in Felix, tunawak na Stoneface kufanya episode 3, Eland and Freedom.
Everyone, I'm Chao, and I'm one of the co-curators for the project. It's really lovely to see this take place today, because when initially Savvy Contemporary, who are the funders, they are visual and performance artist group in Berlin. When they got in touch and said that they would like us as African Digital Heritage to handle the project, I had a moment of panic where I said, actually, we can't do it. I'm not a visual and performing artist, and this is not going to be possible. Because I did think that our work with museums and archives really sits within the work that they do. And they got back and they said, no, you just run with it. Whatever you produce, whatever you come up with, that's what we want. We want an expression of what this theme means to you in different ways today. And so it's so nice to be able to articulate some of these things, not just from our perspective as curators, but from everyone's perspective. We went with kind of different writers for different episodes because we also wanted to show the ways in which many of the themes that we're talking about are, how do I say this, they affect us in multiple ways. So it's really nice to be here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for the work you've done so far. We're almost at the end of this, but yeah, I just wanted to say thanks a lot. Action. So we realized we didn't really communicate what the other episodes are, so everyone was kind of working in their own silo, and we're sorry for that. But episode 1 is underdevelopment, myth and reality, which I think Robin is working on. Episode 2 is barter, belonging and borders, which Ngatia is working on. Episode 3 is land, labor and liberation, which Felix and Stoneface are working on. Episode 4 is arts, culture, education and folklore. That's Lam's episode. And episode 5 is communities all we have, which is Karu's episode. So those are kind of the themes that we'll be working on today.
I just wanted to find out how, I think we have the writers and performers for episode 1, 3 and 5, episode 2 as well. But I just wanted to check in and find out how we all doing today, how we feel in our bodies, what does the day feel like, how's the day met you, and if you'd like to briefly share for those who will be sharing their work, what was the process of interacting with the research, which things stood out for you. You can choose to respond to this or let your work be a response as a standalone. Was the research, was it accessible? Is there any feedback you'd like to give us moving forward? And if you're comfortable with sharing, you can tell us what the script writing process was like for you. Again, also, what things emerged as you were interacting with the work. Yeah. I don't know, Maureen, do you want to start?
Okay, sure. So, where do we start? Like, how I'm feeling today?
Yeah.
It's a cold day, but I'm really happy to be here. Oh, it's a cold day, but I'm really happy to be here with everyone. Episode 5 is about community is everything. And I love that I'm in the presence of some amazing thinkers and really happy to be part of this project. Mombi approached me about this project a few weeks after my reading group had just finished the book How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. And it was a really intense read and really, okay, I don't want to use hyperbole and say actually life-changing, but like, it really gave us new perspectives on what colonialism and coloniality look like, because back in school you'd read, okay, so the Brits came and they went away back in 1963 and that was that. But Walter Rodney really goes in on what happened. He comes with receipts, he comes with facts and figures, and discussing this book with my younger sibling, and he's always talking about why can't we be like Singapore, and that myth of we in 1963, yeah. So being able to break it down for him, because he's also part of the podcast. I wrote him in qua script, so I wish he was here to read his parts, but it's been really amazing just being part of this project and being able to do this with my brother. And hoping that, Mombi mentioned that for those who haven't read How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, you want to wrap them in Kwahi project in a simple way and break it down in a simple way so that the people can understand. So, to me, it's just amazing being here with community. Community is everything, and I hope that our project will be able to make an impact, because we are archiving this, we are documenting this for future generations, and I'm just glad to be part of this.
So for me today, I'm feeling good, feeling rested. I haven't had like a really long day. I just woke up and this was the only thing I was doing today. So yeah. In terms of the script, for me, I think first of all the research package made it really easier for us to like script it out. We had a discussion with Stoneface and tried to map out how the script would look like, and that was like the easiest part of it. And also the writing part was also easy, but I think for me the most difficult part was now when it comes to the translation part of it, because that is what we are over time again to see, that is that when you write it in English it flows, but now they're trying to shift it into Sheng. Is where we're getting troubles to do that, because the words that already exist in English, but they're not words that exist for something like that in Sheng. So trying to find a word that we're trying to explain to the people what imperialism looked like, or something else, that is really difficult to do that. So that is what we've been trying to work around. I think that was, for me, I think that was the most difficult part when trying to work around the script, but everything else was good for me, basically. Yeah.
So Felix described it all. My week was fine. Today I'm feeling good. The research part was perfect because we even tried to understand the struggle that's happened right now. I think is a struggle continues because we haven't get the freedom that the freedom fighter was fighting for. This land, freedom and justice. We are still on the same struggle. But now the problem was also translating it to Sheng. The people from the informal settlement need to understand this. So the moment we'll be talking on deep English, they'll be like, "What are you talking about?" But now to make it to a level that they can consume best, it was really kind of stressful, because we wanted them to get this information basically, because we're doing this for the community. And thank God, at least it flows and everything is fine. Yeah.
It was the day, the thing,
the research,
the feedback.
yeah.
Okay. The day is cold. I think today was a really exciting day for me to wake up to, because we're in studio recording Cabrezan, which was fun. It's always fun to be in studio recording. It's my favorite thing to do is to perform. In terms of the material for this project, first of all, with the first email, what was really exciting about this is that the range of topics being explored. I think, so for us, Mora is doing the writing and I'm doing the performing. So she's engaged with the material in a different way than I would, and I'm excited to see what she comes up with in terms of the script. But even just looking through the research pack, the first page alone was triggering for me for multiple reasons. One, because unless you can't hear it in my voice, I went to a very British curriculum education school, and there's a lot of unlearning that I've been doing over the past few years about my perspective on not only this place, this land that we're all from, but also my perspectives on art, on culture. I think there's a lot of whiteness that is instilled into our education system, that if you don't recognize it and you don't do the work of unlearning it, it will show up whether you like it or not. So even just in terms of the way I see music, classical music versus traditional music, and what's considered to be more academic or what's considered to be more valuable. I went to the type of school that made the Baroque classical music more valuable than Yatiti, and it's the work of unlearning that, and then reading this research back and seeing how systemic that was. It's systemic, but you don't know the nitty-gritty of it. Has been revealing, and so I'm grateful for that. I'm really, really grateful for that. I would love to be able to. The first thing I wanted to do when I saw the research pack was screenshot it and share it in my family group. That's the first, and I would. Can I do that?
Yeah, sure.
I can. Okay.
Research that's available. Like once we publish the episodes, I don't think they should be.
Because if I share it on my family WhatsApp group, they're going to
Movie ends.
sambaza it to everybody.
No, of course, you can share it. Go ahead.
Yeah?
We're also thinking about how we can share, like, it's in written form, like the different things that, like, how can it guide, like, learning beyond the podcast. So there's just a bunch of moving parts. So yeah, I mean, we can share it through group chats, like as a Google, like, link,
As
but
a
like
complete.
it could also be something else. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I'm excited to hear what everybody else has to share. Really, really excited. Thank you for doing this. Yes. That's it.
Gosh, Nairobi is so cold. That's one. Coming here was so hectic. There are like 50 campaign vehicles on the road. I can't. It's like with
All of them with 5 million different songs. There was like one of them, which I don't know. I won't name it because I don't know the they were saying Kwani ni kesho, and I'm like, this is not what Brooklyn Boys were singing for you to come. I don't know. I hope you're paying them. I've had a good day. I've just like been rereading the script. It's my first time making a script like a script. I write other things usually, so I've tried to like merge different things I enjoy into the script. It was really nice to be writing this at this point, especially with like elections coming up and feeling so tired. And it's been helpful to center myself with a research work, because mine was basically like how communities around the world have responded to all the things. It was so inspiring, like seeing about like the Maragua women farmers, or just seeing like people, like communities in places you like, you think that it only counts as change if you're seeing it on the Times or if it's getting a Nobel and all that stuff. So it's so inspiring to know that there are people all the time doing the things that they need to do for all of us to be free. It was really, I had a day where I had like an existential crisis. I think I just read about the farming, the seed, the attempt to, what is that Bill Gates is doing? The thing with the seeds, how they're trying to get farmers to, how farmers are essentially being forced to buy seeds from the agrochemical corporations and basically more or less alienating you from the seeds that your people have used for generation and for millennia. I'd always seen the things on TV, but like when you because it sounds a bit conspiracy theory when you like sit down to tell someone all the ways that the things are happening. I was like, this interview of one indigenous activist who was just talking about how terrible Monsanto is, that agrochemical company. And the interviewer was like, you sound like a conspiracy theorist. And it's true, because you're saying this one, and then this one, and then they all came together to do one. And like legit, that's what they did. But it's been great to know that despite the conspiracy level of evil and greed that exists, that people are still able to create spaces for themselves and their yeah, that's how the work felt. The research packet was really dope. I tend to get very immersed in the research, and I'm like, I just need one more Wikipedia page to feel ready to write. So having it collated, having kind of like limits to work within. Well, not limits, but places to start and go. It helped me because I didn't feel like maybe I need to read more so I can know enough to start writing. It was like something I can actually digest. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, I think Mumbi and Chao, would you like to share any thoughts on the process so far? And
No, I think for me it's more of an overall perspective. We spend time in archives. We spend so much time consuming material that other people have created, especially when it comes to kind of historical perspectives. You're constantly reaching back into someone's perspective of something. And so I think it's also important for us to really just appreciate that we are building an archive. Like, this is an archive that other people will use, and not even from a pressure kind of standpoint where it has to be this or that, but I think the agency of knowing that you're also an active participant in this thing we call, this wild, crazy thing we call history and, memory, that we're actually creating material that will resonate with so many for many years to come. So I think about it in that sense, that I started my work or my career looking at archives and digging through museum boxes and collections, but here I am creating an archive, and I think I'm really proud of that as a thing. Yeah, and it's cold, and I haven't eaten, and Lisa hasn't told us when we're having tea, but it's okay. I should have started with that. But it's really good to envision this as part of a broader kind of understanding of our identities as well.
I mean, I feel like Lisa and Charles have said everything, but I mean, I guess for me, I've really been thinking about political education, especially with the elections going on. Like, what other kinds of ways can we think about the material conditions people are living in beyond the sort of like propaganda that a lot of the parties are circulating at the moment? So it's not to say that this is enough, but it's interesting to be in a space where you're thinking together and to also think about the different ways that we can even distribute this. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that. I've also, I guess, on a personal level, I think this time last year I was a teacher and now I'm not anymore. So the reason I stopped was because I just was not being paid enough for the amount of work I was doing. So it's been an interesting process of thinking about what teaching looks like through different mediums, and how people can teach together, but be thinking from different places and how those thoughts can come together. My thoughts are everywhere, but I've been thinking a lot about how this project is like a contribution to political education, but then also a source for us to teach each other and then also work to teach others. So, yeah.
The target audience for this, for the mere fact that I share the same experience as Laura, to some extent, where I'm indoctrinated into believing in the exporting of the African experience outside, and then I have to buy it back so that I can believe that it's worth something. The only time I get to feel African is listening to African stories by Africans and from Africans. And I'm about to contradict myself because in terms of sound and my involvement in this project, ever since I listened to Good Kid, Mad City, I wanted to create environments that I do not have to see to believe, but I can hear and be there and experience the same things that the person who's, in this case, Kendrick, is trying to communicate. And so that's why I love sound, and that's why I've dedicated the last 4 years of my life and my artistic expressions into sound and sound design. I really do not feel African. I feel lost as an African, to tell you the truth. There's been a wave of people adopting their African names, and I feel that's a pretty cool thing for everyone to have. I have Arabic names all through, like for 16 generations, it's just Arabic names. And so whenever I try to shift back into my Africanness, I get lost from the naming point. And so moments like this and stories like this and projects like this, what make me feel African. And I think it's important. And thank you for inviting me, and thank you for doing this.
So today, how am I feeling? Anxious. I'm tired. I barely slept because I was anxious. But the day has met me with a lot of softness and ease, and reminded me to just soften into the tides. Interacting with the research was quite something. I'm going to share this here because it's a safe space. There's a week I just stared into the abyss. because I just couldn't believe the extent to which the violence and the intentionality behind the violence, because sometimes when you read history, it's like it happened by accident. It wasn't planned. It was planned. So as I mentioned earlier, there was a week when Patrice Lumumba's remains were repatriated. The same week, the Maasai were protesting in Tanzania. And it had me thinking about this work that we do of, I guess, looking for the knowledge and then trying to bring it to the light. Yeah, so this work that we do of digging through history and trying to tell people about it, I felt very hopeless, which I've been feeling for a while. I did development studies and philosophy in uni, and so Walter Rodney's How Europe Underdeveloped Africa was one of our reading materials for I don't remember what unit, but we read it, we referred to it a lot throughout. And I remember at the beginning of the year sitting with Chao for almost an hour inventing, because we don't have resources. Like the case studies and the examples that were taught in class, we're talking about participatory development, but we're not looking back to our communities who are deeply rooted in communalism, which just centers the person and centers the people's well-being naturally. So it's nice to be here and to be creating this archive, imagining it with all of you, and hoping that it helps people who are learning the things I was learning then, that it makes sense, that it translates, that even when we sit with the pain and the heartbreak of history and being erased, not seen as people, basically, that we find, again, grounding in our communities, we find the strength to stand up against all the blows that face us every which way in this imperial capitalist world. I think that's a brief summary. I have much, much more to say, but let me stop there so that we can go into the script.
Hi listeners, this is Maureen Mo Kasuku. I am so hapo mbele kuna chu hizo songs. I'm an African by Dead Press chorus. So, hi listeners, this is Maureen Mo Kasuku. I am a socialist feminist and a founding member of Feminist Conversations KE. Check us out on Twitter. I'm inviting you to listen in on this podcast episode as we unpack the myth and reality of underdevelopment. For posterity's sake, we started putting together this podcast episode as we observe the 42nd anniversary of Walter Rodney's assassination. He's the great revolutionary behind the book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, which is now in its 50th year. How dope is that? Karibuni, and let's get right into it. So, what do we understand by development and underdevelopment? Away from the hellscape Twitter discourse on what development is, and it's not concrete jungles and expensive roads you have to use express highway, or what the bourgeois media and scholars refer to as undeveloped or underdeveloped in global South countries. So great thinkers like Pan-African Marxist revolutionary Dr. Walter Rodney, feminist scholar Oyeronke Oyewumi, and Pauline Hontoji have provided us with the knowledge and critical insights on understanding the myth of underdevelopment. So, tutaenda voices mtaani and ask people what they understand by development and underdevelopment. Fellow, unaelewa nini kuhusu development na underdevelopment?
Venye tulifunzwa shule, development ni maendeleo. Kitu kama SGR, expressway, makeja fiti. Tuseme venye majuu iko, alafu underdevelopment kukosa hizo maendeleo. Kuishi na umaskini venye si ucheki mtaa huku Kenya. Yaani mpaka wananchi wanakosa dema.
Mbona majuu iko developed kuliko Afrika?
Ni juu hawa walianza kuinvent vitu mbele yetu, na pia leaders wao sio corrupt kama wetu. Wanatumia pesa za wananchi vizuri kuendelesha country zao.
Unajua majuu iliendelea hivyo juu ni wakoloni walituibia vitu hapa kwetu. Pia Afrika ilikuwa inaendelea tu fiti kabla hawa watu wafike hapa. Pia sisi tulikuwa na maendeleo.
Ndio, lakini mbona baada ya kupata uhuru bado sisi ni maskini na leaders wetu wanaiba kuiba?
Ni juu hawa wakoloni waliiba kuiba na pia wanaendelea kupitia ukoloni mambo leo, na tunafundishwa venye walifanya. Na mwandishi alikuwa anaitwa Walter Rodney. Sikiza chenye yeye na wengine wanadai kwa hii podcast. Okay, so what is underdevelopment? What is development? So for us to debunk the harmful prevailing myth of underdevelopment in Africa, it's crucial that we first understand the origins of development and what it meant for different parts of the world. Often, the term development is used in an exclusive economic sense. You'll learn later from Rodney in this podcast that development is more than just expansionism and accumulating things. In his book, in his magnum opus book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, Walter Rodney explains that a society develops economically as its members jointly increase their capacity for dealing with the world around them. This capacity for dealing with the environment is dependent on the extent to which they understand the laws of nature, on the extent to which they put that understanding into practice by devising tools, and on the manner in which the work is organized. So, umeelewa venye kulienda sasa?
Ndio, sielewi mbona tukufunzwa hizi vitu shule.
Si sadfa, ilipangwa hivyo ndio waweze kuendelea kutunyanyasa na sisi tubeki tukijilaumu na ni matendo yao.
Kwani kabla hawa wasee wafike huku tulikuwa tunafanya nini? Mbona tulisahau wenye mababu zetu walikuwa wanaishi na maendeleo yao?
Hebu tusikie podcast inadai aje. Rodney teaches us that one of the most difficult questions to answer is exactly why different people develop at different rates when left on their own. Part of the answer lies in the environment in which human groups evolved, and part of it lies in the superstructure of human society. That is to say, as human beings battled with material environment, they created forms of social relations, forms of governments, patterns of behavior, and systems of belief which together constituted the superstructure, which was never the same in any two societies. Each element in the superstructure interacted with other elements as well with the material base. For instance, the political and religious patterns affected each other and were often intertwined. So, tunaelezwa na Pauline Hontonji, who was a prominent African philosopher in his most prominent work, Myth and Reality and Endogenous Knowledge, qua research traits. He highlights the importance of indigenous knowledge that was eroded during colonialism. He speaks on how people still rely on indigenous knowledge systems that have never been forgotten. Na ana quote, most of our people still depend on indigenous knowledge. For instance, in the fields of health and agriculture, among many others, only a few women today give birth in maternity hospitals. Most babies are delivered by traditional obstetricians, especially in the countryside. As a rule, people who live in areas there are no medical doctors have to rely on traditional healthcare. So unachiki filo, hata uko Ocha, uko mtaani, bado wasi wanatumia indigenous knowledge. Hizi vitu hawakuwahi sahau. Ni venye kwa standards hizo hazikui considered development. Unajua hiyo story ya Maragua Women's Coffee Strike?
Hebu nisho kulendaje?
Haya, sasa tusikie venye podcast inasema. In the 1980s in Kenya, our wakulima wa coffee farmers were suffering harsh economic conditions. Kwa nini? It's because due to state corruption, rising prices of agricultural inputs, and a drop in international coffee prices. By 1986, hawa wanawake hawakuwa wanapata anything kutoka mabwana zao kwa sababu ya government-issued coffee payments. By 1987, they started planting vegetables among the coffee trees. It was against agricultural regulations to intercrop coffee, but hunger forced these women to do it. These women went even further and uprooted the trees and used them for firewood, although it was illegal. This action became widespread as the women rejected World Bank development because it did not provide a livelihood. The World Bank needed the government to repay the loans and hence insisted on coffee farming as a way to increase foreign exchange and use it to pay for the loans. In Maragua, women went back to actually enjoying the fruit of labor through the production. This was a big fuck you to the World Bank idea of development that only made worse the economic harm through structural adjustment programs. Philo, tumejifunza nini leo?
Tumejifunza vitu mingi sana. Washa niambie audience kwa muktasari. People the world over have continuously shown a capacity for independently increasing their ability to live a more sustainable, satisfactory life through exploiting the resources of nature. Every continent independently participated in early stages of the extension of human control over the environment, which means in effect that every continent can point to a period of economic development. Africa was developing at its own pace and did not need European interference. And a development is rooted in the relationship between colonial countries and colonized nations. The African point of view, development is centered around the person and not simply targeted at increased economic growth and rapid industrialization. Africans continue to use indigenous knowledge in everyday life situations in spite of colonial erasure efforts. Okay. Walter alidai tusonge mbele aje.
Hebu tusikie akiongea kwa hii clip.
It surely cannot and will not, for the very reasons implicit in this analysis, it cannot be developed by the present state systems, by the classes that presently control that state. And therefore it seems to me that we have to shift from that. Although we need to look at it in a technical sense ultimately, and to be far more rational and scientific in planning, we need to concentrate more on who will do the changes, who has the right to reassess the situation. And in this context, I will fall back on a social class analysis because it seems to me that that is the only valid way that we can understand how the societies are functioning and which groups can make a contribution. Ultimately, although I have to oversimplify, African and Caribbean society breaks down into two large components, or to two components with power. There is the power of working people that derives from the fact that they produce. And the producer always has that power. Sometimes only a potential power which has yet to be actualized, but it is always there. And there is the power of the social groups who control the state, who control the allocation of resources and the allocation of surplus in the society. Now for Africa, let us exclude for the moment the direct intervention of multinational capital and concentrate on the political scene where undoubtedly the indigenous state has an autonomous capacity, and it has a capacity to wage struggle on behalf of its own class vis-a-vis the workers and peasants of Africa and the Caribbean. And in that context, we therefore need to identify the social group, the leading social group, which will both command the struggle, provide the organizational basis for the struggle, provide the ideological underpinnings of the struggle. And we can proceed inferentially, we can exclude one group as a group that is not operative and is not functioning and cannot historically function anymore to lead the African people. and to lead the Caribbean people, and that is the so-called middle class, the petty bourgeoisie. Let us at least put that myth to rest. The petty bourgeoisie as a class is unable constitutionally to lead any third world country anywhere except the destruction.
Petty bourgeois. And thank you. Episode 1, Myth and Reality, Underdevelopment. Okay, I didn't read all of it because we were going to take a lot of time here, and because we are only here up until 5. Also, it will have been a bit strange for a fellow here to read parts that we know. So we had to skip some of that. But questions, suggestions, criticisms, anything?
Really like how it even started. Like, those are the biggest questions anyone ever has. It's like, underdevelopment ni hapa, development ni huko, and like how you articulated it. That part was really,
I think for me, there was I think in the conversation when I think Philo says, when you explain to Philo why sisi wana majuni developed kuliko huku ni juu over time ni majoko developed juu ya ile exploitation or exploit wealth kutoka huku to side nyingine. Many people don't really get that. Sisi tukakuwa kama watu wa majuu, but watu leo walikuwaje he developed. So yeah, that is one thing that really caught me. And I also think about the story about the Maragua women. I think that is, ever since I read that story, it's something that stuck with me, because for a very long time there's a connection between that and the land to it, because those women saw a different use for the land. Shamba ni yao, alafu wanaambiwa pande kahawa, but wanaona kahawa kuna vya tusaidia juu bona zetu wanaharvest kahawa na kunywa pesa yote, but in real sense we need food. So I think the way those women thought about the land is something extraordinary, because kila time tukienda wacha supita coffee farms za Kerish and what not, tunaona acres and acres za shamba za kahawa na nini, but bado kuna sana lalanja huko. So there's literally, I think your idea, that story about the women and what they did should like get to more people, so that I think people can start thinking about tunawezaje repurpose hizi land to do something else. Yeah, so I think you're ilikuwa ni kitu interesting kwangu.
I thought it was super, super cool. I liked the questions, the prompting questions that would bring me back whenever I feel like I would get lost in a thought like, oh, I want to go and Google that and come back here. I like that you ended with the quote as well. I haven't heard that quote before. That's a super powerful quote. I'm excited to see how it comes out when it's fully produced. I'm really, really excited for that episode. Yeah.
Thanks, Maureen. I think as an introduction to the archive, it tackles the questions that you need to internalize as you start, and kind of the issues of balancing different perspectives, but also like I think it does a good job of setting up the myth of, as you said, what it means for Africans or Africa to be the way it is now, but only because we are being compared to something else, which is unrealistic.
I think we can move on to the next one. Is everyone okay? Responses. Do you have any questions? Okay.
24th August 2004. Mandauo karibu Sombili wamekita kambi Uhuru Park. Mbona wako hapa? Weekend ilipita. Zogo ilitokea huko na nyuki baada ya Manjenge kudaisha Mandauo walikuwa wameingia shaki za masetla wazunye kulisha ng'ombe zao huko. By the time hiyo zogo ilikuwa inatulia, mapayo walikuwa wamedundisha ndauo wa miaka 70. Wengine wane walikuwa wameumia, na wadhi wengine kaa 70 walikuwa wamedandiwa na kutingiwa neti. Lakini leo hapa Uhuru Park, raia inajikusanya omole kwa demo. Kiasi manjege wanaingia scene na tension inaanza kupanda. Dakika kidogo baadaye manjege wanadaisha hiyo gathering mandauo ni illegal. Wanachapia mraia izidi, na kama kawaida yao wakatupia hiyo mraia tiagas. Kidogo zogo ikaanza tena. Mapayo wakipiga wasema fimbo za vichwa, maelbo na magoti. Wakaanza kudandia mraia wakiwatupa kwa Miriam zilikuwa zabe zikiwategea wateja. Lakini mbona mandao walikuwa wamepiga seti Uhuru Park? Au mandao sombili, mavijana na wazae wenye walikuwa Uhuru Park walikuwa wamekam kudaisha warudishiwe mashake zao. Walikuwa wamechapia gova iwarudishie shake. Ilikuwa size ya karibu eka mita jamo. Ndio rade design hiyo shake ilikuwa bwaku. Eka mita jamo ni grau za futa milioni 1. Yani grau 1, 2, 3 hadi milioni 1. Hii shake ilikuwa ngaya mandauo kitambo kabla wanyang'anywe na ipatianwe kwa masettlers wazunye matemi koloni. Lise kwa masettlers hiyo shake ilikuwa imesainiwa 1904 na ilikuwa expire August 15th 2004. Cheki. Tumesikia eti kabla wakoloni wa Mwok, Waafrika walikuwa madwanzi na mafala design ya ngori. Eti wako wanajua tulia wazi bila kupata. Eti magoro na silver zilikuwa kwa mchanga bila mtu wa kuzichimbua. Najua umesikia morio fulani akidaisha kasi wa koloni Waafrika ingekuwa develop. Lakini ukweli ni kabla koloni Waafrika walikuwa wanajituma wakipiga mboka. Shake ilikuwa samojamo ya maana sana kwao. Ndio maana shake na jasho mraia ya kupiga mboka. Ndio vitu za fao wa colonial target wakianza shughuli yao kuexploit na kuanda develop Africa. Mimi ni host wako Stone Face Bomba. Na kwa hii episode mimi pamoja na co-host wangu tutachambua phrase fulani na tambulika underdevelopment complex. Hii ni ile ribati wazungu wa Mungu. Tuna development yetu most kwa koloni na koloni. Tutachambua mbona ma-imperialist walitarget sana mashaki na jasho mraia kanji ya jamu ya kuanda develop Africa.
Una meza rada 1904 agreement.
Zais mesei.
Hii agreement ndio ile mraia ilikuwa imejikusanya pale Uhuru Park 204 ilikuwa inajaribu kuprotest.
Ngori. Hebu nipeleke na mtaratara anaweza taka kujua zaidi.
Unachekia agreement ilisainiwa 15th August 1904 na mamorio wawili. Olanana alikuwa na represent mandauo na governor Sir Donald C. Watt represent governor ya ukoloni. Agreement yenyewe ilikuwa inadaisha mandauo wa mwisho kutoka Zabea Ngong penye walikuwa wamekita kambi hadi kwa reserve za Laikipia na Loita. Ngong sasa ilikuwa ibaki ma settlers.
Lakini naelewa hii mchujo wa mandauo kutoka Ngong kuenda Laikipia ilikuwa ya fao. Yaseko bado ilikuwa inakam.
Jo. Miaka basa tu baada ya hiyo mchujo wa fao mandauo alidundiwa na ngori ingine.
Kiaje tena?
Mabrito walikuwa wamemezea sana hiyo shaki ya Laikipia penye walikuwa wamesunda mandauo. Walikuwa na cheki ilikuwa sete sana kuseti maset leo zabi. So wakachezea mandauo karata wakiwa wai. Ribaiti Olanana kabla genye death wish yake ilikuwa tini mandauo wote wajisunde zabe jamu. So kwa chivio death wish Mabrito walikuja na agreement ya pili. Kenye ilikuwa inaitwa the 1911 Treaty. Kenye ilikuwa inadaisha mandauo wachujwe kutoka Laikipia hadi reserve za Kajiado na Narok. Watu wengi na mifugo waligenya kwa hiyo safari ya mandauo kuchujwa kwa hizo mashaki zao kuelekea Narok.
Kitu fani ni eti badao mandauo kuchujwa kwa shake zao, Rift Valley nzima ilibaki tu masettlers kiasi wenye lacha shake bwaku na manyasi zibaki wazi zikiharibiki. Matai mandauo walikuwa wamefinyiliwa kwa reserves penga. Time za kiangazi na njaa ilikuwa lazima wajitoe katafute malisho za bengine.
Bana jo. Na hivyo ndio ama settlers waliweza kuanzisha hizi settler farm bwako zetu tunachekiwa leo kazi za kina Delamere.
Hizi mashake zao zenye zimetengenezwa juu ya shake zimesanywa ndio ilileta rada ya capitalist agriculture. Yaani kugeuza shake ya mtu binafsi kisha unapanda cash crop zenye mdhia anapiga bei kupata profit yenye ni yake solo. Hii system ya agriculture yenye inanyanyasa mraia mbaya na pia kuharibu mazingira venye inapararisha na kuchapisha mchanga. Form ya venye wadhi walikuwa naishi Afrika.
Jo. Lakini nini ndio alternative ya hii? Nini inaweza replace this system ya capitalist agriculture?
So kitambo kabla ukoloni, Wabukusu na Bagoli wa Kimilili uko Bungoma, kama tu communities zingine za Afrika, walikuwa na mixed economy moja ngori. Walikuwa wanalima mimea na kuweka mifugo. System na rada ya mdhiku on shaki kibinafsi haikuwa hizi mairia juu shaki ilikuwa ya kijiji nzima. Hata kama familia zingetumia shaki kupiga mboka yao, hiyo shaki haikuwa yao, ilikuwa ya kijiji nzima. Na baada ya hiyo familia kuvuna mimea yao, hiyo shaki ingerudishiwa kwa wazee wa kijiji wa hiyo mitaa wenye kazi yao ilikuwa ni kuchunga venye shaki ilikuwa igawanywa na kutumia kwa kijiji nzima. Walikuwa pia na system jamo fiti sana kugawanya mboka. Mabuda wera yao ilikuwa ni kufieka, then kulima kwa shaki brandi zenye bado zilikuwa na mchanga ngumu. Mamadha na watoi walikuwa wakupanda na kulima. Mavijana nao wera yao ilikuwa kulinda mimea zizidishiwe na manyonde. Hii inatuonyesha venye shaki na jasho mraia kupiga mboka iko imelaliwa venye tumeshinda tukiambiwa na wakoloni zae. In fact, Kenya ilifanya jasho ya wadhi anze kudoziwa na kufanya watu wengi wa kuwa unemployed bila wera ni kuwekwa kwa system za ukoloni zenye zilivunja hii system ya Afrika na kugawanya wera. Hii system ya ukoloni yenye ilivuta pia ekonomi ya Afrika na kufanya wadhi wengi waanze kutafuta wera za kulipwa mshande. Irada ya kuseti wera za kulipwa mshande ilikuwa njia jamo yenye wakoloni walitumia kuanda develop Africa.
Has a soundbite from a documentary hapo in between. And then Mau, hii jina ilitoka wapi? Hii jina inamaanisha nini hata?
Si nadhani Mau ilikuwa short form. Ilikuwa inamaanisha mzungu ende Ulaya, Afrika apate uhuru ama?
Hivyo ndo tukigrow tulikuwa tukichapiwa na hivyo ndo tulikam kurada hii movement. Lakini kuna theory inadaisha wakoloni ndio walibandika hii movement hiyo jina. Unarada hii movement ilikuwa inajitaje kabla wakoloni waite Mau?
Zae.
Kwanza walikuwa wanajiita Freedom Struggle Association. Kisha wakabadilisha jina wakaanza kujiita Kenya Land and Freedom Army.
Okay. Lakini mbona wakoloni hawangeita tu move
Kenya Land and Freedom Army? Hebu sikiza tu hiyo jina. Inachora picha gani kwa akili yako? Jeni picha mamiro walikuwa wamejipanga kupigania Kenya walikuwa wanaaminia. JKLFA ilikuwa ni mboki ya mamiro wenye walikuwa wanapigania Kenya walikuwa wanatambua na ilikuwa na end goal. End goal yenyewe ilikuwa ni uhuru na kurudishwa kwa mashaki zao zenye wakoloni walikuwa medingo.
So Kenya unadaisha neti wakoloni au kutambua na au kutaja KLFA juu hiyo ingelegitimize hiyo waluta yao.
Kabisa jo. Wakoloni wangetaja hii mbogi na jina zae. Walikuwa wanahitaji kupena riba ingine, riba tofauti yenye ingeingiza masettlers njeve na at the same time ize mamiro wengine kujoin hiyo movement. Na wangachieve hii kwa kutumia jina ina paint hiyo movement kamboge ma terrorist, mamiro watiaji wenye hawana shukrani kwa ile civilization na development yenye wakoloni walikuwa wameletea Afrika.
Lakini kitu moja ni ngori, ni venye hii jina Mau despite venye ilianzishwa iligeuka na kuchukua maana yake yenyewe dunia mzima. Hii jina ilikam kurepresent movement yenyewe ni anti-colonial, anti-capitalism, anti-imperialist. Yani hapana tambua koloni, hapana tambua ma-capitalist, na hapana tambua ma-imperialist.
Then we have there's a Malcolm X speech in between. Should we read it? It's like in Mississippi we need a Mau, in Alabama we need a Mau. You want to pray it? Okay.
In Alabama, we need a Mau. In Georgia, we need a Mau. Right here in Harlem and New York City, we need a Mau.
Lakini hata kabla Mau, Kenya imekuwa na historia ndefu sana kwa luta imperialism ya Mabrito. Mimi hupenda kujoketi zile simba za Savo, yani zile manita zilikuwa rende za fao za resistors kwa hii luta.
Yani unadaisha hizo masimba zilikuwa anti-colonial na anti-imperialist.
Si ndio jo? Really ndio ilikuwa saini ya fao za ukoloni na imperialism ya Brito. Na venye simba zilicheki mrai kiseti ndechu za kutenza reli, zilidesha zae, haiwezi make. Na ka revolution yoyote, hizo simba zilipigana na ukoloni venye zingeweza. Hadi mwisho venye ziliangushwa. In fact, hizi simba zinafaa kuwa considered kama martyrs kwa hii haluta.
Martyrs tena. Ngori mse.
Kukamkoreli ndio ilikuwa sign za fao za ukoloni. Hii time movement ka Kikuyu Association na Kavirondo Association ndio zilikuwa zinatetea wadhi. Matiman zao zilikuwa vitu kama gova irudishe mashaki walikuwa mesanya na kuchujwa kwa system ya kipande yenye ilikuwa inanyanyasa. Lakini venye masiku ziliendelea, capitalism ikaendelea kusambaa, mraya working class, yani wavunja jasho, wakaanza kutokea.
Na venye working class ilianza kutokea, hivyo ndio ma-union zikaingia kwa mix ya luta.
Jo. Na kuingia kwa hizi union, zenye zilikuwa anti-capitalist na anti-imperialist iligeuza sana, ile struggle ikakuwa kutoka kupigania political power pekee, hadi kuanza kupigania economic liberation ya mraia. Hii ilifungua face brandi ya luta. Penye struggle za wafanyikazi na militant struggles zilikuja kimoja, zikaanzisha aluta kupigania uhuru na shake.
Uhuru na shake, venye KLFA ilikuwa inapigania uhuru na shake.
Jo. Venye wale wafanyikazi wenye before walikuwa na participate kwa zile ma-strike wakiwa kwa ma-union walichekia ati hakuna venye wakoloni watawa heshima yao na uhuru yao kikamtu kwa upole na amani, wale wamewaka ni mbaya. Na hapo ndo wakaanza form za Guoko.
Okay, so tunarada hiyo reba ya Guoko kupitia luta ya Maumau. Lakini mbona tumesei ile role ilichezwa na trade union na wafanyikazi wote kwa hiyo luta independence?
Unachika vuja jasho walikuwa na lola kitu jamu. Ndio tupate uhuru kutoka kwa unyanyasaji wa capitalist, ni lazima tupate political freedom kutoka kwa ngova ya koloni. Baada ya Kenya kwa uhuru, Gova Brandi ikakamna riba ati uhuru ilipiganwa na kila mtu, sio working class solo. Hii riba ilichangia pakubwa sana kwa kuvuta ile contribution ya working class kwa riba za luta uhuru hapa Kenya. Hii ilisaidia sana hii Gova Brandi kuwepa accountability juu alidaisha hii uhuru wenye tulikuwa tunadai tushaiwai, chuma Brito washasepa.
Na kupata sasa Gova Brandi baada ya Kenya kwa uhuru ilivuta hiyo struggle ya wavuja jasho, ndio funge mraia macho ikiwaingiza eti walikuwa wamewai uhuru juu walikuwa wamechuja mabrito. Lakini kweli ni wadhia wako wamegetu uhuru. Wale ma-capitalist na ma-imperialist bado walikuwa wananyanyasa mraia kama 2/4.
Jo. Ukweli ni it's not yet uhuru. Juu hizi gava zote baada ya sisi kupata uhuru bado na side tu na wale ma-capitalist na ma-imperialist wenye walikuwa wanatunyanyasa mababu zetu.
Lakini nini ilifanyikia ma-trade union? Mbona wakurudi kuorganize mraia kupigana against uhuru ya uongo walikuwa wametuingiza nayo? Enyewe jo, hiyo ni ukweli. Na hadi Kenya tunacheki sahi na kotu ikiongozwa na Atwoli. Kotu ilikuwa imenyamaza tu wakati wafanyikazi milioni mbekse walipoteza wera juu ya COVID. Na sahi venye bei za bidhaa zimekuwa zikipanda design ya noma. Wakati mshande za wavunja jasho iongezwi, kazi ya Atwoli imekuwa tu ni kupiga kampeni za BBI.
Bana jo. Nikaa kuna msa kutetea masuala ya wafanyikazi tena. Hakuna mtu wa kusimama na raia. Cheki TZ venye mandao wananyang'anywa mashake zao na kuna msa wote anaongea kwa uso.
News na MA TV. So I'll skip that. I'm going to the next paragraph. Uko TZ tunacheki Gova imeseti plan za kusunda 1500 km square kando ka reserves itakuwa inaoperatiwa na kampuni inajitambua ka Otolo Business Operation. Itacheki mandao almost 150,000, 82,000 huko Ngorongoro na 70,000 Loliondo watachujwa kutoka kwa shake zao. Already mandao TZ wamepoteza 70% ya shake zao baada ya kuchujwa changuvu, wakichapiwa hizo zabe zimegeuzwa conservancies. Conservancies ni njia jamu ya kuendeleza legacy ya ukoloni ya kuosha ma indigenous communities mashake zao. Mara most hizi pastoralist communities ukatazwa kuaccess part za mashake zao zenye walikuwa wameseti kando kazabe za malisho time ya kiangazi au sacred site za kuofa sacrifices. Hizi shake zinageuzwa conservancies zenye zinaraniwa na mlami na kwa faida ya mlami wenyewe. Katu time ya koloni inakuwa made possible na sheria zenye watu wengi mtaa hawana rada nayo, na saa zingine kwa kutumia nguvu, kwa kutumia manjege na mabunde zao. Tukiangalia vizuri tunacheki hizi project za conservation bado zinabeba ma indigenous community kama Fala wenye wajue kutunza mazingira yao, Madwanzi wenye kila time wanagongana na wanyama. Tumeshinda tukichapiwa eti custodian kenye kanajua dhamani ya shake na anajua kuitunza anahitajika, na kila time steward huko mlami. Ian Craig Sonko Begi wa conservation na development pale Northern Rangeland Trust NRT ni mmoja wao ma steward. 2004 Yano aliamua kuunda Northern Rangeland Trust, kikundi ya ma conservancies 33 kwa sai. NRT na control almost 11% of shake zote Kenya nzima. Umenisikia vifiti. NRT na control 11% ya shake Kenya nzima. Waliwayaje hii shake? NRT wanajua kucheza karata. Wanaita zaya yao kikundi ya wasee kiasi kutoka kwa kijiji kwa tend meeting zao. Kwa hizo meeting wanachapia eti kuna investor kuna plan za kutengeneza hoteli ya watalii kudoziwa kikam kucheki wanyama hizo mayade. Kijiji wanachapiwa wawai huyo investor party ya shake yao kwa lease ita return for 30 years, na in return eti watawewa wera kadhaa hiyo hoteli kishajengwa. So unacheki community end up ku exchange shake yao kwa miaka mingi, na in return wamewa tu wera kadhaa za ufala zenye hata azisaidii mraya. Na hivyo ndio venye wadhi walikuwa wanajitegemea before wanageuzwa wajakazi. Shake ilikuwa bado ni samo ya maana sana kwa community mingi hapa Afrika. Ile mchujo tunaona sahi ma indigenous community wakichujwa kwa shake zao kutengeneza njia for conservancies, trophy hunters na watalii kuendeleza tu ile rada ya koloni ya kuchuja wadhi na kuwa shake zao kwa settlers. Hii mambo haijawahi kuwa ni kuhusu kutumia land vizuri au kuprotect nature na wildlife venye wameshinda wakituimbia kutoka Laikipia Tuloliondo Tungorongoro tunacheki kitu jamo. Iriba ni kuhusu nani ya target kucontrol shake na resources ziko hiyo mayande. Iriba ni kuhusu unyanyasaji, udingo na kugawanya mraia kutoka kwa shake zao to culture yao. So that's the end of.
Do we have any responses from the crowd, from the listeners?
That's our response. Yeah, I'm just happy. I think, like, nisupo na flow vizuri sana between Maureen's and then coming to this. I was just like, oh man, yeah, it's heavy. Like it's a heavy episode, and it doesn't end on and we all went and had cake together. It's like this is the reality, you know. This is not see jokes. Like 11% of Kenya is under conservancy saizi, and that's like minus national parks and the like. So I don't know. You guys have done an amazing job. Yeah.
Nimefanya kazi fiti sana, and naomba once the podcast is ready kama tunaweza tumia hiyo kwa political education fulani huko mtaani, so na permission yenyu.
And the rhythm is so good, and like how you like mko mesema the concepts, I was so eager to see how you were going to like put them into and you really did. Like, wow, it's tight. Thanks.
History fact, the oral history of the Kamba says that the lions were representations of chiefs who had passed on, who are coming to. Yeah. the oral history, like if you look at the oral history of the man-eaters and the surrounding community, they were actually seen to be like the incarnations of chiefs who are against the railway in the land.
That's so cool.
I love it. You would see it anywhere, like nowhere.
It's here now.
So it's a joke. It's not really a joke.
I really love that. There's a part here, while you're here, I talk about like the land being an ally. Like the land itself, the trees, like the whole. I was thinking also of that story of how the Mau, was it a leopard? There's a story, I've had it. Like the Mau, there was a leopard that would alert them to when the people were coming into the forest. And something also about like the honey that they used to, as a salve. Yeah? You know what I'm not making it up.
The leopards, no.
The leopards, I'll find it. I think it's by Munge, or something, by Munge from, yeah. Anyway, I'll look it up. Even if we don't, we can just
go into it. Let's just spend years in the forest. So
yeah. They must have. Yeah. Feedback I would like. I am a poet. So when Lisa, we were first talking, she was like, you'll make like a lyrical essay type of thing. So I'm interested in feedback into like how the words flow, how the rhythm is. Sometimes my mind gets ahead of me and I'm so interested in like giving you the big idea at the expense of like the music and the rhythm of the thing. So I would like you to bring my attention towards places where I've done that. So I can, be more grounded. I don't know if I should tell you how I've imagined it, I might just read it. Actually, acha nisigive too much away. Nisiwa guide sana. This is still a working draft. I believe in editing until the last minute. So, and then there are places where I think because I was picking, because I was doing the last one, I tried to pick examples of community responding to like land, barter, responding to each issue. So we'll see how it hits. If I went into too much detail, we can definitely edit it shorter. Yeah. So kuna places are faint, kuna two drums. Kuna two drums at certain places. We have chairs. So I'll just like try use my voice to add to the music of it. There's a place where I'll stop to refer briefly to my phone. Yeah. But it's actually I do. Don't think I have that kind of coordination. So, faint drums beating in the distance, growing louder, louder. I see. We gather here in this particular time and place to make a circle. To make a circle with our voices and our attention and intention. Knowing as we do that our people have gathered around fire and trees and water for thousands of years, plotting freedom, living out freedom. We're drumming a circle together. We're drumming a circle through and across time. We're singing a very, very long song, so we must remember to breathe. To check into our bodies and what they carry. The drumming is rising and falling. This circle, consecrated for freedom, dreams, and those who practice them across time and space, meeting in this sonic landscape. The drum beats intensify, notes of Walela by Makeba playing. To this circle, we welcome the particular nows we straddle, our ancestors' deep well of love and care, as well as the unnameable benevolences that nourish each of us. May this circle be a portal and a ceremony, urging us deeper into freedom's belly, urging us deeper into each other's keeping, urging us deeper into principled community. Hey, oh. Welcome, loved one. Welcome, freedom dreamers across time and space. May your breath and your body soften as we gather here. As we circle around each other's voices and pasts and futures and the sharp, terrible present, may our memories and joys and griefs find a place of shelter in this circle. We have been gathering for a long, long time, singing a long, long song. Our song is a dirge sometimes, a howl scream cutting through space-time, a sorrow song for those who've been murdered, trampled underneath years of suffering. Sometimes our song is a basket of annulations, marking with joy what we have been able to build and nurture, despite. Sometimes it is a trembling why song. Sometimes the song is only a whisper. We sing this song taking comfort in seeing our comrade ancestors singing it too. Our hands do the singing sometimes, passing food to one another, redistributing resources. Our bodies do the singing as we gather and share resources to keep each other alive, despite. Our spirits do the singing. We work knowing that our actions are creating in the right now the world we want. In the face of the state, in the face of increasing privatization, in the face of evictions and food hikes and fuel hikes, in the face of sleek policy speak, used to cloak mass violations of people's well-being, in the face of ecological destruction, in the face of the ongoing colony, in the face of many freedom dreams betrayed or co-opted, we affirm community is all we have. Our ancestors' wisdom pins us alive, yani mtu ni watu juu ya watu, yani ubuntu, yani ujamaa, yani community. To this circle, we call in the spirit of the Maragua Women Farmers Collective, peasant women who were forced to grow coffee through the collusion of the state, the IMF, and their husbands. Coffee that stripped the land of its nutrients because of the expensive and intensive agrochemicals used to tame the land into producing cash crops. Hear that? Cash crops. Food abstracted to money. The actual workers of this coffee, this cash crop, Wavunja Jasho, could not share in its profits. The state and the benevolent IGOs were robbing them. Imagine that. You're forced to grow crops so that white people can have hot coffee while your own children starve. The women uprooted the coffee trees and burnt them, planting banana and beans instead. Food they could feed their own families with, or choose to barter or trade surplus. Money in their own communities' hands, privileging an arrangement that made sense to them rather than one that made sense to a bunch of consultants in Washington. Community is all we have. Mumbi, I'm going to need help with this name. Abalali, how to pronounce it? Abakhlali Besimjondolo. Yeah. Okay. To this circle, we call in the spirit of the Ekenana occupation and the larger Abalali Besimjondolo movement of South Africa. I'll get better at that. Or we'll have it read by different people, so it's fine. Mumbi will read this part. Communities of shack dwellers, slum dwellers, people made homeless or pushed into unacceptable housing conditions by the greed and hoarding of land by private and state interests. They came together in response to the ongoing crisis of land dispossession. We honor this Living Freedom project made up of the hopes and everyday actions of poor people. As we gather, we learn from this movement that shows us that land occupation is land reform. They teach us that land reform is not a future dream to entrust to the bureaucracies and delays of court proceedings or state capture. It's a right now thing. As we drum, we learn from their rhythm. We learn that any kind of change we want cannot be outsourced to the state or former colonizers. If we want to learn how to time travel from the terrible colonial present moment that shapes so much of our countries, we must act on people's time, now. Not tomorrow, not when the new report comes out, not next year. Now. Our comrades remind us we must practice a people's politics, a living politics that knows that the earth is not a commodity to be hoarded by African elites or their foreign counterparts. Our comrades drum loudly, telling us that land should not be bought or sold. They teach us what our ancestors knew, that the land exists that we may live on it, not so that we sell it or buy it or hoard it. The land does not exist so that we build fences and evict our kin, naming them squatters or landless while we wall up the inheritance. We hold this lesson close as we grapple with cities that have no space for the poor, for the young, for the disabled, but endless space for prestige projects that serve only the elite and the state's desire kufuata nyayo za wakoloni na wezi. Neo-colonial fantasies that harm and dispossess people further. We hold this close as we grapple with the Maasai being pushed out of their land so that fancy conservancies can own it. The Abalali movement joins our drum circle and tells us of their community gardens filled with food that's distributed to community members. They tell us of their community theater where the young and old sing and write together. They tell us about their Frantz Fanon School of Political Education, where common people, regular people, come to learn and question together, sharpening each other's understandings of the world. By their survival, they affirm the power of direct action by self-organized communities. We witness the potency of their practice through their halting of slum evictions, through communes with self-organized water and electricity systems, and through their decision-making process that is in the true spirit of democracy. Yani, watu wanajichagulia. Yani, those who are affected by the decisions make the choices. We are challenged to build solidarity links ethically when they chant, don't talk about us, talk to us. Even as the colonial project breathes, even as the state attacks, assassinates, and imprisons their community members, this freedom project still lives. We call in the ungovernable spirit and we let it change us. As we grapple with election cycles that only seem to nourish toxic political parties, as we grapple with election cycles that only seem to change the faces of oppression, Abalalo join our circle and drum sense into us. They remind us of their 2004 rallying cry, no land, no house, no vote. They bring us this medicine to awaken us from the illusions cast by these neo-colonial states that love their colonial masters more than they do the people. This shack dwellers collective offers us alternatives to voting, alternatives to this madness. They teach that unless the people's concerns are taken seriously, the people do not have to legitimize the fast that state electoral politics can be. They teach us that people can boycott, people can direct their political energies to direct action, community care, and political education. People can direct their political energies to the political processes that make the most sense to them. Their living, breathing freedom project shows us that a living politics, a poor people's politics, must be conducted where poor people live or in places that they can as easily access at the times when they are free in the languages that they speak. The revolution cannot be professionalized. Yani, si kazi ya kupewa salary. It is a radical living, breathing politics centering common people's desires and realities, not the states and certainly not the World Bank or IMF or whatever acronym stands for imperial power these days. To this circle, we call in the spirit of the Chipko movement of India, peasant women living in the forests of the Himalayas. When the state of India auctioned 2,500 indigenous trees to loggers, these women, knowing that their community's well-being and that of the trees was knotted together, knowing what our ancestors knew, that we do not have dominion over the land, rather we live in harmonious dance with it. Knowing this, these rural women hugged the trees, clinging to them, refusing to let go, impeding the loggers. They used their very bodies to protect their community. And here we say community, knowing that it includes non-human kin. The trees, the mushrooms, the insects, the cows, the very earth is part of our community. Tree huggers, wielded sometimes as an insult. Tree huggers, we honor them here, knowing they are powerful political actors. We honor their brilliance, we honor their teaching, that what we do to the earth, what we do is what we do to ourselves. We are all knotted together. We're singing a long song. We return and pick up what our ancestors always knew, that when we move with respect to the land, we gain a powerful ally. To this circle, we call in the spirit of Walter Rodney's groundings with his brothers, how he went to meet with brothers and sisters and freedom dreamers and rastas in the gullies, classrooms, shacks, and in people's homes, learning and teaching. We call in this revolutionary spirit so that we can learn to practice loving each other more than we fear the state. We call in the freedom fighters and dreamers of decades past, those murdered, exiled, betrayed, forcibly forgotten, and slandered. We call in the spirit of Amilcar Cabral, who reminds us that we must deal with our internal contradictions, who reminds us of the daily reckoning with ourselves that we must undertake, the daily reckoning with the twin inheritances of domination and freedom we have inherited. Amilcar Cabral, who reminds us that while we witness and support each other in our various struggles, liberation is not an exportable commodity. Each community must deal with its own historical realities, its own context, and brew its own medicine. He reminds us that we must grapple with the ideologies of our movements, that we cannot go far without an ideology that cuts out a sharp, vibrant future for us. We call in the spirit of Wakadinali, of artists and culture workers who make work that reflects these deadly times. We call in the spirit of Ukoflani Mau Mau. We call in Makeba. We call in Nina. We call in all those multitudes who remind us that you have to roll up with your homies, roll up na rende. Yani, ni position polisi mtaani tukiroll up na rende. Yani, rende ina organize pamoja, ni kutegemeana na kujengana. Yani, ujamaa. Yani, mtu ni mtu juu ya watu. Yani, the charm for the path is community. We call in our mothers and foremothers' wisdom, they who have been in chamas all their lives, meeting their community's needs in the face of patriarchal violence and state neglect. We call in their spirit that they may remind us how to gather and care for each other. We call in the spirit of the Burkinabe freedom movement of Thomas Sankara. We call them in that they may remind us that development does not mean champagne for the few. It means clean drinking water for everyone. We call in the spirit of Pan-African solidarity. We call in Asata Shakur, who reminds us loudly that we must love each other and protect each other, that it is our duty to fight, that it is our duty to win. As we gather, we honor the survival of all those who are not meant to survive. We honor the Palestinian movement. We honor indigenous people across time and space. We honor all those whose names we do not know. We honor people's grassroots collectives that mushroom time and time again. We call in the spirit of the Kamirithu Theatre Group. We call in the farmers, researchers, workers, the unemployed, artists, analysts, Juakali artisans, market traders, bus drivers and conductors, freedom lovers across time and space who have weaved ways of speaking together and acting together. Gathered here in this circle together, so much is clear. It is clear that the sun will set on every empire and every tyranny. It is clear that we cannot allow colonial relics to adjudicate the well-being of our communities. It is clear that the well-being of our communities cannot be decided by philanthropists or benevolent dictators or experts from above. The well-being of our community will be shaped by our own commitment to dealing with each other and with the contradictions of our communities, the people we work with, love with, learn with, and hope with, the people we share values and resources with. It will be decided by how we care for those disinherited from the fruits of the land, the landless, stateless, poor, queer, trans, disabled, and othered. It will not be determined by how much richer the rich can get. We have these twin inheritances, the trauma and pain and logics of colonization, and also the inheritance of beauty, fire, wisdom, and ingenuity of freedom lovers and fighters and indigenous people across time. We have inherited our ancestors' tools too. They are the colonial logics, and they are also the logics of freedom, the logics of love, the logics of oneness with the earth. Soon come a day where we do not believe the missionaries' lie that we have dominion over nature, over the earth. We do not seek dominion, we seek to live in harmonious dance. It is clear gathered here that our ancestors and comrades through time and space have made charms we can work with to summon this freer world sooner, faster. We see from the example what the charms are. We practice being in right relationship with reality. Yani, see things the way they are. Refuse to be swayed by fancy language that cloaks the truth. We talk together, we study together, we learn to name what we see, whatever it is. Once we collectively practice naming our realities, we use what we have to get what we want. Yani, the tools, answers, the how-to, it will be determined by our community's contexts. The state is not our center. The map is clear. The well-being and dignity of the most vulnerable in our community is what community success means. Every win, every day we stay alive, though it seems small in the face of everything, we remember what our spirit bodies know about time, that it is all now. Any freedom we brew today will stink through eternity. Any freedom we ferment together will quench both our ancestors and our descendants, just as their freedom brews nourish us. It is all now. We reject abuse in the name of community. We reject patriarchal violence in the name of community. We reject pedestals and golden leaders. We reject cults of personality, cliques. We reject violations of the self in the name of community. We honor our inner knowing and care for the self, even as we brew community. We reject policing ourselves and policing each other. We reject cultures of surveillance in the name of community. We reject policing people's bodies in the name of community. We reject violent hierarchies. We struggle daily with each other and remember that we need each other at a molecular level. Our very bones and cells know this. Community is all we have.
I asked about the flow, like, and the rhythm, and what the music sounded in their mouth.
Yeah. Just reading it, I can see I need shorter sentences in some parts. But
just a comment. I'm thinking, like, when we're having this conversation, there's no any institution that taught us about this. No any school that we went to learn about this. The school that we went to is the school that favors the people in the system right now. And I'm so glad because I've understand like each generation must discover its mission, fulfill it or betray it, and now we at least will find our mission. And also it's try to remind me that there's no liberator, people liberate themselves, and exactly this is what we're doing. And to add to the poem, it's very inspiring and motivating. And I think it's a circle like taking us deeply and coming back to the current, going back to tradition, and also it's reminding me of something that I can try to share it. I try to find a place where past and present doesn't exist, only the future. But I can't because the inner soul forces I remember, meaning the past, and the past carries a deep trauma. Passing through that wound is made who I am at this present. Then I learned that there is no future without a past. And the past is the present, and the present is the future. Yeah. So that's inspired.
That's exactly it.
So it's powerful. It's a powerful poem, and thank you. Oh.
That was really beautiful poetry, and I hope to be there the day of recording. Tukae kwa circle pamoja. So yeah, tafadhali.
Yeah, actually, that I want it to be read by like different parts, different people, so it can create like the sonic feeling of like a group.
And the different parts is like when you're referencing different movements?
Yeah, the different parts is when I'm referencing different movements. Yeah, yeah. And then, Laura, I know you animate really well. So I want to yeah, so do things like that.
Tutakuja.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I mean, every time I thought you had said the most powerful line, you just said another one. I was like, I need to cram that, I need to write that. Boom! They just kept coming and coming and coming. But you've managed to, I mean, capture so much of what the series is about. And it really, I think, does balance kind of the shock that you hear throughout the rest of the episodes, the hope that you gain, what you learn. And I like also that you reference movements also outside Africa. So in India, and it's kind of like this global conversation around community and what that looks like. It's very powerful. I had tears in my eyes at some point. But I think also what Stoneface has said is really important. Just in imagining what this could be, I wonder if we can incorporate some audio from this table read and our reactions either into your episode or as part of, I don't know where they fit, but I think also the reactions today have been so organic and so authentic and just like real. I didn't even see that version of the script, so I was so just as a creative idea, where does the energy in this room fit within, can it fit within the archive?
I like everything you write. It's wonderful. I've had versions and like parts of the work, but hearing it all together was wow. I can't wait. Like I can't wait to have like the sound, the relations, the drums, the song Walela by Maria Makeba, if we can. I think it's a really nice way to wrap up the whole archive, because it holds the sorrow, joy, the pain, freedom, yeah.
Everybody has said times 5,000. That was very, very cool. And very, very cool in the context of what has been said today. Just on what you asked about the flow and the rhythm, I think you know exactly what you need to do next. You've said it's editing. And then also when you say it out loud, there's a rhythm that's already coming through. I think once you edit, it will come through even stronger. You might find that you want to read it out loud with music in the background and use that as a way to edit further. Once you've edited just based on the language, then now based on how it sounds. I love that there was breath in there. I love that you honored every part of the community, including the self and the body, and you made that super, super clear that this is not just about one version of community. This is every single version of community. It did make me wonder about like reconciliation with the parts of communities that have caused harm. And what that means, because when you said policing, I was like, oh, but then what do we do? And I know that there's a solution, and the ancestors have given us a solution, but it was just that it did a palpitation thing in my body. But then I remembered breath, so it feels like it felt like naming and solution all at once. There's so many layers in there, so many layers. I'm so excited to hear how it comes up. I think that would be very, very cool. The thing about multiple voices. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm so glad you've spoken into that competition. I didn't want it to sound like communities like the only, like just join a community and then you're great. And I'm still trying to write towards that, like that tension of community and the things that we do to each other in communities as well. I think I'll edit a bit of the last part to hold it more, because I think people also carry a lot of pain from communities. I mean, I do. So I can assume everyone else is grappling with the same thing. Maybe where I talked a lot about Amilcar, I'll change some of I'll tweak it a bit so I can speak more to that. Community stuff. Yeah.
I think for me what was really cool is that I think sometimes like community feels like something that can, like, I feel like you bridge the space between like community and like an alternative form of development, because community just feels like, sometimes I guess we think of it as just gathering, or like as a pathway towards like this alternative, but the actual, like in creating community and the different ways that we create community, and it's not just about gathering, it also can be about it's also about struggle, it's also about building different institutions together, that those are all forms of community building, but also forms of actually building like towards this alternative of development. So I think that you kind of bridged that gap really well. Yeah. Maybe just one last question. Okay, now that we've had all the 3 episodes, we're thinking about an introduction, and we didn't want it to just be sort of from the ideas of Charlize and I. We also wanted it to be reflect everyone's thoughts. So now that you've had those 3 episodes, of course we haven't had the other 2, but what can you imagine an intro looking like? Like, what would you want to see in there?
Like an intro episode or an intro to each episode?
Intro to each episode.
Each?
Huh? No, like the beginning, because we needed something that would introduce everyone to the whole series.
Sound logo.
Yeah.
Intro, and transitions. All that. With my experience in recording, people do get to find their intros while recording or in the process of recording. Because now the stories become more vivid when you're recording, and the tones are understood well in that process. I wouldn't be pressed too much to have an intro or outro or transitions at this juncture, but in the process of recording, you do find, a sentence or a word or a breath or something that would guide us into an intro.
And what about an intro to the entire series?
Same for that, yeah. Because this is a body of work. That intro, like you said, is supposed to communicate and accommodate every piece and every episode. So it does, the tone for the entire thing would come to life during the recording process. That's one way. The other, it doesn't limit us to think about an intro right now or during, or between now and the recording process. Yeah.